Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott, and we got the Friday night edition of the show with the Wizard, Josh Rutledge, talking all the latest and greatest in the UFO world. We're going to get into that momentarily, but first we must say hello to each and every one of you. We start off with Kitty Caddywhack in the gold medal position, Race Fan with a silver, and T-Bone taking home a bronze medal tonight. Good to have you all here. Tim Mothman in his goatee. How you doing, buddy? And who is next on our list? Jeremy Jones is here. Jeremy Jones will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind. To the left of the studio. Robert Lamoth and JSCO. How you doing? Necessary Dialogue. Stephanie Kenny Blankenship. And Shaman Code or Shaman Code. How you doing? Jennifer Beveridge. Nice to see you here, neighbor. Charlene Skywalker. Yeah, Charlene. I know it's Charlene, but I'm calling you Charlene because it's fun. It's fun that way. InsureTech, welcome to SOR Chat. As we continue on with our roll call, there's Road Flare. How you doing, buddy? And Mama Catherine, there she is. Mwah. I love my Mama Catherine. How you doing, my love? I hope you had a great night, and I hope you're doing very, very well. So enjoy the show. Last one before the weekend. It'll be good, I promise. Operation Shutdown. How are you? Carol Amario, thanks for coming on in. And there's Josh. It's Mystic Journeys in the chat room. And who else do we have here? Well, let's scroll on down and take a little peek here. We have Thomas Rock, and we have Integrationing. Skip to My Lou, good morning to you. Skip to My Lou will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind. To the right of the studio. Moving on down, there's Captain K-Rod. How are you, my dear? I love you. I hope you're having a great night. And where are we here? Oh, there's Amanda. Well, it's been a few weeks, Amanda. How you been? Nice to see you. Erica Stover, good to have you here. As we scroll on down, and up next, we say hello to Paramarv. How you doing? And T-Bone kicking off the Super Chat tonight. The Super Chat is a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. So thank you, T-Bone, for your great love of SOR. We greatly appreciate it, my man. Thank you. You're the best. Scrolling on down, we have Frankie B. How are you? Josie Nebby, welcome to SOR Chat as we continue on with our roll call here. And up next, we have Noble Patrick. How you doing, buddy? Good to have you here. Algaray over on Twitch just did 5,000 wizard wand waves to report warm up for Josh tonight. That's good. That's powerful, man. Oob to Joe's Main. You've got wizardry. Yes, you do, with that beautiful hair of yours. Panda on Fire. How are you? As we continue on with our roll call. By the way, just an update. Jeremy Jones will be charging $50 an autograph. $50 an autograph. Don't make eye contact either, and line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind. All right. Jose Sanchez, how are you, my friend? And Evan Walters, you're pissing me off already, and I've only been on the air 3 minutes. East Coast Turnaround, how's it going over on X? Fat Nuts, how you doing, buddy? As we scroll on down. Hey, say hi to Hoodoo Tall for me, K-Rod. I would appreciate it. Give him a big hug for me if you don't mind. I love that guy. J True Seeker, how are you? And who else do we have here? Well, let's scroll on down, and scroll on down some more. And some more. Chaz Mataz, good to have you here. Jerry Lahane, nice to see you. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We have Josh Rutledge, the wizard, coming in to talk some UFOs here. We are in roll call on our YouTube side right now as we say hello to Aussie Boss Tiger. How are you doing? And who is next? Well, it's Ghost Vibes. Welcome to SOR Chat. And who is next on our list? Well, let's take a look here. Let's keep on going. Josie, welcome to our new membership. Thank you very much for joining us. We greatly appreciate that. Mike Nation, nice to have you here. Welcome to SOR Chat. And there he is, everybody. It's Area 54. Nobody knows where he is, but there he is with a great super chat. Thank you, my friend. Super chat is open. Wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis and shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. Do me a favor. Throw those horns up. Let's rock.
Are you ready to hear your mystic voice of the night?
It's time to wake up.
He's here. Be quiet. He's ready for you to listen. Let's point our ears to what's that really happening next. We're together. It's time for Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott.
From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Tonight's show is brought to you by CaribouCon. Go to CaribouCon.com. Get your VIP tickets now for September 18th through 20th, the best paranormal conference in British Columbia. We have an amazing show coming up for you tonight. The wizard, Josh Rutledge, is back. We're going to go through the next couple of hours getting into some serious UFO time. Then in hour number 3, Swamp Dweller will join us for a spooky story. Then extra small Lee Strauss will hang out with us for more Q&A. So let's get right to the wizard, shall we? Because we love it when he's here. We love it when he's a part of this show. And we love it when he brings his knowledge to us. Josh Rutledge, widely known as the UFO Wizard, has carved out a unique space in the world of ufology through his relentless curiosity and hands-on approach to investigating the unknown. Blending a deep fascination for the cosmos and practical fieldwork, Josh has spent years exploring sightings and patterns and anomalies in the night sky. He is also a member of MUFON Arizona, or Phoenix, I believe. One of those ones. He's part of MUFON. We know that. His work goes beyond simple observation. He focuses on identifying trends, studying witness accounts, and attempting to bridge the gap between science and the unexplained. Let's bring him on in. Josh Rutledge. How you doing, buddy? It's good to have the wizard back on Spaced Out Radio.
You know, I almost forgot your name, Dave, but it's been so long. I almost forgot your name.
I know. You know, I mean, you were trendy there for a while. I think there was even a hashtag with you.
Yeah.
You know,
Hashtag
sudden,
the UFO Wizard for sure.
Dude, you got to admit that is a great name.
It's a good name. I'm not knocking the name.
You shouldn't.
Not knocking the name.
You shouldn't. It gave you identity.
Yep, it did. And I mean, I bought the domains, you know, for goodness sake. I mean, I don't want anybody to sneak up and steal them out from underneath of me. Next thing you know, I'll be getting an email saying we'll sell these to you for $5,000.
Did you really buy the domain name?
I did. I bought the UFO Wizard and just UFO Wizard, both at .com.
Nice. Very nice. You got to do something with that.
Right now, they just point to my main website, but yeah.
You made it when you have a hashtag.
Yep.
The UFO world's a little bit chaotic right now, my friend,
Yeah.
since the Donald Trump thing. And you and I have talked since then on this show. But, I wanted some time to go in depth with you on everything, because one thing I love about you, Josh, is you are a very in-depth thinker when it comes to this subject. You don't get too high. You don't get too low. You're not all over the map like I am, and I can admit that freely. When you see what's going on recently here, what do you like and what don't you like?
Well, I still am very skeptical that we'll actually ever get anything from the government. If we do get stuff, I expect it to be a bunch of files they've already released on a new website. That's I just don't think we're gonna I don't think we're gonna get anything that's gonna just break the case wide open, and give us stuff, to go and be the feed into new FOIAs and all this other kind of stuff that's just gonna be the breadcrumbs that leads us to the house of candy. I'm still very skeptical that the government would do anything to release anything of significance, because it really doesn't behoove them to do so. Other than potentially as a distraction, but there's other distractions that are more prominent right now. So I don't know.
What would be the big issue of the day that you're seeing right now? Is it Trump going through the whole release of the program? Is it the fact that we haven't seen anything like that yet? That we're all waiting on pins and needles? I mean, there's little clues like aliens.gov or alien.gov. And then there was the one politician that basically said, hey, we'll soon see, or something like that on X, in a response to when are the alien files coming on in. What do you think's going on?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it was big enough that it boiled up to Trump, to where he made his proclamation. I think that Obama helped push that a little bit. And the comment that Trump made on the plane of, he's not supposed to release classified information. Like I said when we talked about Obama's statement, is that it might have been kind of a big brain play by Obama to say something, even if he walks it back. Trump can do what he did and claim supremacy over Obama, or he could do what he did and still be consider himself to be more than Obama, release more than what Obama said. So in either condition, Trump is the one who let's say announces or prioritizes quote unquote disclosure by Obama simply making the statement that he did, even if he went back the next day and walked it back. So I think that's one thing. Whether or not, though, we actually get anywhere, I think it's given a lot of, there's, what's his name? Burleson has been making the rounds on various podcasts and shows lately. He's supposedly getting access to military sites and things that, he's been trying to get access to for a long time. And now that Trump has made his statement, it's easier for him to get access to it. But he admittedly says that, he sees things or knows things that he can't share with anybody. So we're still in the same boat, I think, of let's say that the Secretary of Defense, that they actually go and they've tasked people to pull all these documents together and have all this information and they're ready to post it. There's still the matter of classification. And I think that's always going to be the hindrance and hurdle for us, the common folk, knowing anything about what the government has going on. It would take Trump, basically it would take, Pete Hegseth going to Trump and saying, hey, we found these 30,000 documents, let's say, that, that have previously not been made public. However, Mr. President, they're currently, classified above top secret. So we can't just put them out on aliens.gov. He would, Trump would have to say, I declassify these 30,000 files, and then they can be made public on whatever website they want to use. So I think that there's, we're in step one of some multi-step process that we have to get through to where we might see documentation. I thought it was interesting too, Representative Luna recently, in kind of an off comment, she said something about transdimensional beings. So I think it's given a lot of encouragement to, Luna and the other members of that UAP, panel, to that hopefully, they're seeing now that the president has taken interest in something that they've been chasing for a while. But again, I think that there's a few checks and balances that have to be accounted for. And I don't know if those checks and balances, specifically the declassification of a lot of this documentation, will occur.
See, that's the big thing that I worry about right there, is the declassification. What are we going to get? The UFO community is the most hopeful community ever. They are that kid on Christmas Eve who is praying for a new bicycle under the tree from Santa Claus. And most of the time they end up with socks. But they never give up the hope that one Christmas is going to come and that bicycle is going to be there. And I worry about this because I think, like you said, we're not preparing for the worst case scenario, which 9 times out of 10 it usually is with the government on this subject. And I saw a quote recently, and I'm paraphrasing here, just remembering it off the top of my head, that basically said, we never believe the government unless it's about UFOs, where we give them 100% faith that they're telling the truth.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get that. I don't get why we're so enamored by what is coming out of the government. Just because somebody says UFO doesn't mean that they're going to give you information on that. And I just see us getting ready for heartbreak again. And maybe I'm being a little bit pessimistic. Maybe I'm just been down this road before, I don't know, Josh. I'm just not as excited about it. I got my fingers crossed, but I'm just not as excited about it. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, I would use the analogy of, Charlie Brown and Lucy with the football. If you remember you ever see the Thanksgiving special, he goes out to kick the football and he's like, you're not going to move it this time, right? And she's like, no, I promise I won't move it. I won't move it. And then he okay, I'm going to go for it. And he goes for it. And then she moves the football. So that's what it feels like, is that every time we think we're going to get something, we get disappointed. But you're right. For whatever reason, the vast majority, the community, if you will, the population of people, not the individuals, but the population of people is waiting, thinking this time it's going to be different. And frankly, that level of influence is, I think, what a lot of people in the government depend on. Because if we ever got to the point where we're like, you know what, we don't care. You guys, one day maybe you'll come clean, but we don't care anymore. like if we ever as a community just got to that point, we got tired of having the football pulled out. I don't know what the government would do, because they would have lost then some level of control over, the people of the UFO community.
Is it about control? See, this is what I don't understand, Josh. Okay, because in the giant atmosphere of everything, the UFO community is very small. Okay, is it tens of thousands of people? Probably. Is it hundreds of thousands of people? I don't think so, but it's a very passionate community. Okay, that doesn't include people who are just sitting on their couch, watch the evening news and say, "Oh yeah, hey, look at that UFO thing." That's kind of cool. What do you think about that, Charles? It's not like that. I'm saying people directly involved in this community. And for them to talk about the control aspect about it, they already have the control, Josh, in my opinion, because the majority of the population, if we focus just on the North America, okay, they don't care. They don't care at all.
But maybe, so I hear what you're saying. First of all, I would say that the UFO community, I think, is at least 1 million to 2 million people, based on the number of people who download documentaries and books and things like that. I don't think it's the same group of 10,000 people that are doing all that. So I think the UFO community, even, not necessarily the people who are actively watching 10 podcasts a week or going to MUFON meetings, may not be 2 million, but I think across the board, the community is somewhere in the 2 million people range. But in the grand scheme of things, there's 8 billion people on the planet, so that's still relatively small. And I'm also accounting for across countries, across the world, 2 million people across the world. Number two, I think that the government would have us believe, and this is going to sound very conspiratorial, but the government would have us believe that they don't care, but they must, because they put a lot of effort into discrediting people who come forward, into messing with people like, Doty did, back in the 90s. Like, they put a lot of effort into trying to dissuade people from actually spending real time investigating the topic. For an organization that doesn't care, why would they do that?
I get that, because I think there is this fear that there could be information leaking out. And don't forget, I mean, with what Rick Doty did to Paul Benowitz back in the day, we didn't have the internet back then.
Yeah.
Okay. This was a guy who was very passionate about the subject, wanted to get on the inside. He got played. He was going on radio shows talking about this and, trying to become as big as possible, through newspaper articles and other types of articles and magazines. And he got played. And it ended up costing him his life.
Yeah.
Okay. Some people think Doty should have been charged with murder. Others say, hey, he took his own life. So why not? Why do we have to put blame on somebody? Right. So there is that big debate on everything when it comes to that situation. But today, with the social media aspect of it all, and the way people can share information much quicker, I think that if there was something that they wanted to give us, it may have leaked by now.
Well, and I would just say that the internet only makes it easier to spread misinformation and disinformation.
That too.
Right? I mean, they could have agents, quote unquote agents, that are just sitting at a computer on Reddit and making fake post after fake post, or using AI programs on their own to come up with fake UFO videos that they know will get debunked, but in the action of being debunked, it will cast a shadow on the real sightings that are out there, right? That the best thing that they can do for the UFO community to detract us from our interest is to cast shade and shadow on the things that we're interested in. Because then when we go to the people on the fringe, or even the non-experiencers, it's an uphill battle to prove to them that the phenomena is real, because there's so much fake stuff out there.
I would agree with you on that. I would totally agree with you on that. The other thing too is, are they preparing us for a disclosure of UFOs, or are they preparing us for a disclosure of technology that could move us forward?
I don't think they're preparing us for either. Again, I've said this from the get-go. The government gains nothing, and they're not going to do it unless there's something to gain. But the government gains nothing by telling the general public that they have technology that far exceeds anything that we've ever thought of or conceived of. You know, even when you think about this, when you think about Star Trek, okay, Star Trek has been an influence for a lot of the technology that we come to appreciate today. Tablets were first seen as, you know, fictional things on Star Trek. Flip phones, you know, the communicator. So it has encouraged a lot of development. But whenever we see a Star Trek show, they are always, the ship is moving forward on a two-dimensional plane. They're in three-dimensional space, but they're always lined up two-dimensionally with the planet, right? Because our brains can't comprehend that something could be coming this way and this way at the same time, right? So they present it to us in two-dimensional space. So we've somehow gone from most humans can't understand three-dimensional space to, you know, anti-gravity engines, and we're going to suddenly reveal this to the public. No, that's never going to be the case. If we've even developed that much, but if we've developed advanced technology, the government gains nothing by telling the general public. It's going to take somebody filming it, or like a public individual, a civilian, filming something and releasing it to the internet, and somehow it not being proved as, you know, fake or false. And it's going to happen. It's going to have to happen a lot for somebody to put the pieces together and say, hey, I think the government has a secret plane because I've seen it land at Edwards Air Force Base or whatever. But even then, because of the environment that we live in, people are going to, you know, half the country is going to say it's fake. The other half of the country is going to say it's AI. So I don't know. Very pessimist on this topic. Sorry.
Yeah, but I don't think it's pessimism. I think it's a understanding of the critical thinking and the reality that is going on. Too many people are like fish. They're biting this hook, line, and sinker, and they're not using their critical thinking to take a step back, Josh, and say, hold on a second here. You know, going back in time, so-and-so politician was saying UFOs are real. They're here. They're, you know, going to be coming out soon. And the next time he or she speaks, it's, well, you know, we don't know when it's going to be released. We don't know what we have. We don't know. It's like they've had a Stern talking to, right? Mm-hmm. So we're going to continue this conversation. We got Josh Rutledge, the UFO Wizard, hanging out with us tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We're going to continue with the UFO talk as we spark up a great conversation. Aliens or our technology. This is Spaced Out Radio. All right, buddy, we're clear. Let us
I need to
say hello or thank you
I need to
again.
go off camera for just a minute, Dave. I'll be right
What's
back.
that?
I need to go off camera for just a minute.
All right, yeah, go ahead, buddy. All right. Parasolo, how you doing? Free your mind, how are you? Jerence Carter. Jerence. I don't have pointed ears. Jerence. By the way, let's try and do something here. I know he'll be awake. See if he answers.
Hi there. You've reached the voicemail of Jim Goodall. I'm sorry I can't get the phone right now. I'm tied up. But leave your name and number, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Happy birthday to you, Uncle Jimbo. Happy birthday to you, Uncle Jimbo. Happy birthday, dear little Jimmy Goodall. Happy birthday to you. From all of us at Spaced Out Radio, my audience is listening right now, Jim, as I sing to you. Happy birthday, my friend. I hope you have a great one. 81 years around the planet, and you still don't look a day over 80. Imagine that. We love you, my friend, and you are the best. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye. I was hoping he was going to pick up. I really was.
He's out partying, man.
He probably is out dancing right now.
I mean, it's only
Yes.
9:30 for him.
Dude, he doesn't go to bed until midnight, 1 o'clock. All depends on how his wife is feeling. He might be dealing with her. No, I'm not calling Ryushin, Jeremy. That would be a waste of a phone call. Mike Arrington, how are you? And let's see here. Let's see here. Who else do we have? He could be having his Jello. I'd like birthday Jello. What do you get for your birthday every year? Do you have a tradition, Josh?
No, not really.
I have ice cream cake. But there's a rule with the ice cream cake. Whoever's at my house, you are not allowed to cut a slice. You have to
eat it with your fingers.
You don't. You just pick your spot and dig in with a spoon, man.
I guess if I had one, it would be my wife generally makes me a red velvet cake with buttercream icing.
Oh my!
Red velvet chocolate cake is my favorite cake of all time.
Yeah, if your wife wants to make that a birthday cake for me, I would take that along with my ice cream cake.
And then the homemade buttercream icing too. She always calls me in to do the taste to let her know if it's sweet enough or if it's buttery enough. And,
I love your wife. Love your wife. Jeremy Jones says Dairy Queen ice cream cake is better than sex. I don't know if that's true, but let's see.
Cold Stone Creamery ice cream cakes are also awesome.
I also like a good cheesecake. Big cheesecake fan. A strawberry or a blueberry cheesecake. Big fan of that.
I like the Oreo cheesecakes.
Oh, I have not tried that one.
It's like an Oreo crust instead of, whatever other crust. Is cheesecake a cake or a pie?
I don't know if it's really either. I don't know.
Maybe it's a pastry.
Hold on right there. T-Bone ×2, Area 54. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you, Josie and T-Bone, for the love on the and Area 54. Yes, I forgot. For the memberships as well. Here we go. We are into the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We have Josh Rutledge, the UFO Wizard, hanging out with us from his beautiful home in Arizona, where probably after this show, he's going to go outside and try and get abducted, because that's what he usually does after the show. Hey, we want to remind all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, you can check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Josh Rutledge, how you doing? Are you ready to play a little game with me?
Sure, I'll play a game.
We are
As
going
long
to
as
play
I don't like call my hand off or something.
We are going to play a game called Ours or Theirs. All right.
This could be a dangerous game, so we'll see where
Well,
it goes.
we're gonna discuss each one, and we'll give your opinion and my opinion on it. So, us or theirs? Theirs being alien technology from the aliens themselves. None of this UAP bull crap. I almost swore there. Okay. And what is our technology? So let's start with an easy one here. Roswell.
I would say theirs.
How come?
The metal. To my knowledge, we humans have not figured out how to make some sort of an alloy composite that you can crumple, and then it will just, upon release, go back to its original shape.
I believe it is theirs as well, because I believe that you don't bring a triaxle trailer carried by a semi-truck and a platoon of army soldiers for a weather balloon. And the explosion or the big noise that people heard when it hit the ground, and the eyewitnesses that were all told to keep quiet, never talk about this again, or bad things will happen. That tells me a lot right there. And of course,
I was going to say, I was also thinking about it today, given the time frame, 47, we were already well into atomic weapon testing. I wondered if, given that it was close proximity to Los Alamos, if maybe they were testing EMP. So they had moved, they were like, hey, we noticed that there's an electronic effect, when a bomb detonates, can we harness just the electronic part? And so they were testing EMP, and that's maybe what possibly some of that big boom was as well.
all right, let's go to the next one. The Phoenix Lights. Ours or theirs?
Theirs.
Is it because you're a fan of Kurt Russell and he was the first one to call it in?
I am a fan of Kurt Russell, but no, that is not the reasoning. I've seen a preponderance of evidence, and I've also heard from probably 50 or so different witnesses who did not all have different experiences, but their experiences had different elements enough to say that they didn't potentially experience the same craft. I'm actually working on a theory that the Phoenix Lights was not a single craft, but several craft that started at different points across the state and moved south. And that's just based on eyewitness testimony and some of the evidence that was captured. So, the craft is often, one of the craft is often described as being a mile wide. I've got a good friend who his experience, he was within 100 feet of it. And he said it was dripping lava, like this lava stuff was falling out of it. And it had rainbow colors, like streamers coming off the back of it. Nothing that we have in 1997 would explain that.
I believe it is theirs as well, not ours. You know, the alleged story of it being a bunch of A-10 Thunderbolts dropping flares. They did not drop at the same time. These were all level, and you didn't see them popping off from the craft. So,
well, the cover story, the A-10s happened at 10 o'clock, and most of the sightings occurred between 6 and 8.
I agree, and that's exactly what I was going to say next. Is
Sorry,
that
I cut you off.
You totally cut me off. You know, very, very, very rude, man. Very, very rude. No, I'm teasing.
I'm sorry.
Teasing.
You can talk over me next.
Okay. I talk over you enough, so you know it's probably due for one of those. But no, you're right. I don't think there is enough. There's enough people talking. The critics of this field don't talk about the buildup to it. They're only looking at the lights that happened over Phoenix in the evening of that night when it was already dark. They weren't talking about what was happening at dusk as the sun was going down. I mean, we can all thank Stephen Greer, who 28 years later said he's the one who summoned them all in. Well,
if you watch Dr. Lynn Katai's documentary, she actually highlights in her website too. I think it's called the phoenixlights.net is her website. She has footage and images on there that she captured months before the big Phoenix Lights event that were orbs and things that she captured in front of South Mountain and things like that. So it was a long running phenomena that, came to a kind of a crescendo, if you will, in March of 1997. So it wasn't a one night thing. It was, took place over many, many months. And, she's got, I've heard interviews from some Native American individuals in the Navajo reservation in upper Arizona who also experienced the phenomena months leading up to the big event that happened in March 1997. So again, it wasn't a one-time thing. It wasn't flares, although a lot of news stations use the flares footage as their evidence, which then, of course, gets debunked because it's flares footage. I wonder sometimes if they do that on purpose or if it's just lazy, sloppy investigation on their part. But yeah, there's too many inconsistent variables for it to be ours.
The next one we're going to get to is Rendlesham Forest, the UK's version of Roswell. Ours or theirs?
I'm going to say theirs again. And I'll say that it's possible that this is like a fine gray area, because if you ascribe to the possibility that they are time traveling humans from the future, and that's one of the arguments for what happened at Rendlesham, is that it was like a time probe, if you will, sent back in time, that it technically is ours. But I would say that, I'm also a little, I have a little personal piece for this one, and that is several years after the event. What's the main guy, the sergeant that took all the notes and stuff? I'm totally blanking on his name. Is it Ben
Benowitz?
Is it Benowitz?
No.
Totally blanking on his name. But anyways, the one of the main guys, he wrote all the ones and zeros in his notebook.
Was it Jim Peniston?
Yes, that's what it is. Peniston, Benowitz. It's involves N's in a sound. So, anyways, he wrote a bunch of ones and zeros in a notebook, and they decoded it. It had a whole bunch of stuff in it. I don't remember all the different things, but one of the things that was in it was some sets of coordinates around the Earth. Like there was like one in Egypt at the Great Pyramid and things like that. Well, one of the coordinates that that they decoded from these ones and zeros was off the coast of Wales, in the water. Okay. Now, where this is personal for me is that I didn't know this at the time. I had not seen this evidence or this documentary where it talked about it at the time. I did a meditation, and in a meditation, I remote viewed off the coast of Wales underwater. I phased through the rock surface, and there was an alien base in this underwater mountain off the coast of Wales. So then I watched this documentary some weeks later, and they're decoding these ones and zeros, and they're like, here's one of the spots, and it's the exact location where I had involuntarily remote viewed this thing off the coast of Wales. To me, that is a strong synchronicity, which points to the possibility that that craft or that experience in Rendlesham was not with things that are of our current timeline human making.
Rendlesham, I would have said, if it didn't have the codes and what happened to Peniston with the downloads of the binary code and everything like that, I would have said this was man-made. I would have said that. That being said, we haven't heard of any of these UAPs actually giving codes. UFOs have been known to do this.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm leaning towards this is theirs as well. You ready for the next one?
Yep. Give me a hard one, Dave. Come on.
Here we go. I'll give you a hard one. The Tic Tac incident.
I'm talking about the 2004 Nimitz.
U.S.
case?
Nimitz, yes.
Yep. Gosh. If you listen to Stephen Greer, he would have you say it's ours. I'm still very skeptical that humans have advanced to be able to create something as complex as the Tic Tac craft. So I'm going to say their craft, our pilot.
I am going to say this is 100% American-made technology. Somewhere on that craft or the number of crafts, there are U.S. flags all over the place. That's what I think. Now, I had to be convinced of that. And I'll tell you what convinced me. I saw a challenge coin. I can't say who, I can't say where, but I had a former military member show me a challenge coin.
Is it
And
the individual I was introduced to?
no,
Okay.
no. Somebody showed me a challenge coin. And on that challenge coin, it was the Mad Hatter. And this person told me, if you want to learn about black projects, you have to learn about Alice in Wonderland and watch Alice in Wonderland, but really watch it, because a lot of the secrets are right in front of you, just like Alice in Wonderland. And on this challenge coin, there was a Mad Hatter. He was holding a red pill and a blue pill. And then over top of his left shoulder, in the black darkness behind him, there was an exploding Tic Tac. And a lot of people will sit there and say, Dave, really, your claims of a coin are what makes you think that the Tic Tacs are ours and not theirs? Yes, because the one thing that I have learned about military patches, challenge coins that they give, is they all tell a story. And only the people from the inside know what that story is. So when I'm sitting here looking at a Tic Tac video, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this challenge coin gets presented to me, and I get to look at it. Didn't touch it. I got to look at it. And I see what it's about. And I know it's authentic because of the person who is showing me. That's what made me believe the Tic Tacs are ours.
Well, I'm gonna just have to disagree with you on that. But maybe it was just a white pill. It was a Tylenol. It was exploding. It was a Tylenol. It wasn't actually a Tic Tac.
Exploding Tylenol. That may be one of the greatest answers ever. And I don't mind disagreeing with you on that one.
No,
I don't mind.
It's very possible. I just, again, like for me, the issue is like our warring nature, our kind of tribal warring nature. If we had that kind of advancement in technology, it would have already been deployed in a theater of war. Now, maybe it has been. Maybe they're only good for reconnaissance. Maybe you can't launch a missile out of a Tic Tac because of the physics involved with making a Tic Tac fly. But I don't know. I like to think that humans are good problem solvers. And that we probably could, if given a Tic Tac, that we could poke and prod and fly around and see its capabilities and take it apart and put it back together again. Maybe we could figure out how to make it work. But once we do, we're going to use it to drop a bomb on somebody. That's just humans.
I would agree with you on that. And I think that is one of the things that we have noticed also. I had one person who you met tell me point blank that within a few days of every war zone, there's a black triangle that is filmed hovering over top of the action. He said, I've seen it on videos because that's what he's seen. And sure enough, when the Israeli conflict with Gaza and Hamas broke up, he said to me, he goes, within 5 days, you'll see a black triangle filmed hovering over. He goes, that's my prediction. I said, how do you know that? He goes, I'm just making a prediction. And sure enough, on day 3, there was a black triangle seen hovering over. So I believe that there is a lot of that technology hovering over these war zones and everything. I think the black triangles, I have a good friend of mine who served in Afghanistan during the first Gulf War, not Afghanistan, pardon me, when he was going into Iraq and during the first Gulf War. And I believe they were in Saudi Arabia or Kuwait, one of those two places. And they watched a giant black triangle hovering over top of them. Theirs or ours? Don't know. Let's get to the next one. We got time for one more here. This one we can get into because Mike Rogers just passed away.
Mm.
And apparently on his deathbed, he said Travis Walton abduction incident was a hoax.
Mm.
What do you think? Was he taken or was he not?
That's a really hard question to answer. Because I've always there's always just been something in my gut that nags at me about that case. On the one hand, I could see, there was a light in the trees and he went to investigate and it inadvertently, exposed him to radiation. And so they took him so they could heal him and then they dropped him off. Like it all makes sense. That's a perfectly logical series of events that could have happened. But the thing about lie detector tests is that if you believe what you are saying is the truth, if you 100% believe it to be true, it will not show up as a false on a polygraph. If you believe, Dave, that you are the descendant, the only descendant of Jesus, you believe it in your heart, and you take a polygraph and they ask you, are you the only descendant of Jesus? And you say yes, it's going to show up as not a lie. Because in your body, you believe it to be true. So all the guys who did the polygraphs, they could have very well convinced themselves that the story they are telling is the truth. But on the flip side, that's a lot of convincing to do in a short period of time. To get to the point where you wholeheartedly believe what you are about to say is the truth. And so because of that, I go back the other way. So it's really hard for me to say. If you nail me down, you're like, I gotta have an answer, $1 million is on the line, I would say theirs. So I'm like 51-49. But
I tend to believe that he was abducted. I tend to believe that. We had one of the 7 people in the truck on the show here, in Steve there. Okay, he was the youngest of the crew. Now, he was kind of convinced, in my opinion, by Dallas that there was some sort of fallacy in there. But he does admit it was a craft. The beam came down. He watched the beam hit Travis. He watched Travis kind of go falling back, not flying like the movie, went kind of falling back. And they took off. Mike Rogers took off down the road. When they went back, he hopped out of the vehicle, okay, because not all of them went back to the site. And when they couldn't find Travis, he was hiding because he knew that he was going to be charged with murder. He thought Mike had killed Travis. Right? But as a 17-year-old influential kid with a rap sheet, as long as he had at that time, you're going to be more fearful of going back to jail than you are of the aliens.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense. But when he eyewitnessed the craft hitting him, and Dallas had convinced Steve that it was a craft from Area 51 that bounced that light off of Travis. I don't buy that for a second. I think it was completely real. I think the reason why this has kind of gone the way it's gone because Travis was the only one to make money off of it. And he didn't make much, but in their mind, he made millions. And he was the face of the franchise. We'll continue with the Wizard, Josh Rutledge, Hour 2, coming up next. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott. All right, buddy. We're going to put you in the background.
All right.
I'll be right back. Be right back, everybody. Give you that one. There you go. Be right back. Bring Josh back. Got the wizard here. That was a fun segment.
Yeah, it was good fun.
The audience enjoyed that too. We could continue with that, or do you want to get into McCaslin?
Let's get into McCaslin.
All right. We got about a minute to go here. All right. Big thank you tonight to T-Bone ×2, Area 54 for the super chats. Greatly appreciate the love. Also, thank you, T-Bone, for gifting 5 memberships. And Josie, thank you for joining our membership as well. We greatly appreciate it. Shop at our Spaced Out radio store. Like this, we do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. What about a chupacabra sucking on some tequila? That's a good one. That's a good shirt right there. Make sure you go get it. All right, hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is underway. My name is Dave Scott. We got the wizard Josh Rutledge in for another hour here on the show, and we're talking all things UFOs. We're going to get into General McCaslin's missing as well. But first, we want to say hello to all of you listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Narqua. Narqua is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's bring in the wizard. How you doing, buddy?
Doing pretty good.
All right. It's been almost a month here, actually, since General McCaslin, Neil McCaslin, disappeared from his house under nefarious circumstances in New Mexico. Nobody has seen or heard from him since. Weird things happened. He left his glasses at home. He left his wallet at home, but he took his revolver. And allegedly, the only thing that has been found is a United States Air Force hoodie that he had with him. What do you think's going on here, Josh? Because this is a conspiracy theorist dream come true with this.
Yeah. I mean, he is an older gentleman. There were some reported health issues. Is it possible he just wasn't quite thinking about things and stepped out of the house ill prepared and then got lost, and unfortunately at this point probably has died somewhere in the desert? I mean, just because he was connected with Wright-Patterson Air Force Base doesn't mean that, you know, he was taken or he was, you know, silver napped or whatever for the information that he has. Like you said, I think it's a conspiracy theorist dream. And people who like to dream up the possibilities of things will dream up the possibilities of things. But, you know, one day there will be somebody else who is famous for whatever work that they did, and they will get older and they will make decisions as an elderly individual that don't make sense. It doesn't mean that they made those decisions because they knew too much or the men in black got them or whatever the case may be. I mean, it's an unfortunate event that involves somebody that is interesting to us in our field of interest. But beyond that, I don't think there's a lot here to really dig into. I'll finish off by saying, what was it? Coincidence does not equal causation.
Normally, I would agree, but I think the one that really put my tinfoil hat back on a little bit tighter was that his research assistant for a long time, Monica Reza, vanished back in the summer of last year while hiking. There's mysterious circumstances under that part where they allegedly said that she was deceased, yet search and rescue was still on the mountains looking for her. Apparently they had a funeral, and it just doesn't add up. Then when you start looking at all the other scientists, and Tim Burchett actually came out and said this, the congressman saying on a podcast recently that there's 5, maybe 6 now that have all given testimony on the UFO subject that have died or went missing under mysterious circumstances. And 3 of them we know are deceased, dying in their homes. We have Reza on the mountain, now McCasland. And McCasland is a multi-billion-dollar brain with everything that he has seen. Okay, like if you cut me open and took my brain and could analyze it, I probably got maybe $50 in there. Okay, maybe I'll give myself some credit, maybe 500. But this guy had a multi-billion-dollar brain with a lot of secrets, a lot of knowledge, a lot of firsthand eyewitness accounts. And I'm not just talking UFOs, I'm talking secret technologies, secret weaponry. I mean, this is what the guy was a professional at.
Mm-hmm.
And could somebody come up and grab him, kidnap him, or off him because of this? Maybe not. Maybe so.
I mean, I could. So if I tumble down the rabbit hole, to make reference to our previous hour, Alice in Wonderland, I could certainly see where perhaps he saw a crime happening, and that the public was being kept in the dark about these potential amazing experiences or discoveries that have been made, and perhaps he was preparing to be a whistleblower, a legitimate one. And somebody, maybe he confided even in his laboratory assistant that he was going to do so. And shadow government or whatever got wind of it, and they disappeared, both of them. I mean, I could certainly see and pull at that thread. But that's a lot of speculation. That doesn't really have any morsel of evidence to support any of that speculation. Like, we don't know if he was having thoughts about, being a whistleblower. We don't know if he was talking to anybody in Congress about what he knows. We have no supporting evidence to establish anything other than he left his house ill-prepared and he's somewhere in the desert.
Well, I find with this story, I find that it is extremely unique because of who he is and the ties. I mean, I cannot, I don't think we can downplay Monica Reza disappearing as not being a part of this, or just coincidence. I think there is more to it. We're not going to know what that tie is. And I also like how you brought in, the alleged shadow government that we all think could be out there that's really pulling the strings on all of this secret technology. And, if you want to get into UFOs, it's probably there as well. Explain what you mean by the shadow government for people who may not understand.
Yeah, basically, some sort of a group of high influence individuals that operate with impunity within the governments of the world. I don't think it's exclusive to the U.S. government. I think that they can come and go as they please within any government, any jurisdiction, any whatever around the world. They operate at such a high level. They hold all the secrets. They hold all the dirt on people to be able to control them, etc. That that what we see as the U.S. government or the Canadian government or whatever government around the world are really just the puppets, if you will, of a deeper shadow government that controls everything. Probably made up of, captains of industry.
Do you think the coincidence, or that there is coincidence with all of these scientists who have testified having things happen? I mean, that seems a little too coincidental.
Yeah, I think if you look at them individually, there are oddities, but if you look at them collectively, a pattern starts to unfold. And even going back to John Mack and his unfortunate demise, that was very suspect at the time that it occurred. I remember reading somewhere, but I don't know, I haven't been able to take the time to validate if this is true, but I remember reading somewhere that on the same day that John Mack died, other individuals named John Mack also died. Like they weren't sure which one he was. And so they just targeted all the John Macks in a certain area. So, I mean, it is, well, and then I'll also say that, we know from Dave Grush, and whether, whatever you think about Lou Elizondo, we know from Lou Elizondo that, that the government made attempts to, public attempts to undermine the authority that they claimed, and Dave Grush talks about, that he is aware of individuals that the government, the U.S. government, has taken actions towards in an attempt to permanently silence. So, do I think that our own U.S. government is capable of such things? Yeah, I probably, I would say that I do. Does it have to be a shadow government? I don't think so. But is it a shadow government telling the U.S. government to go do these things? Perhaps. So I think it's odd. It's also odd. I don't know, if you're going to take the time to remove certain pieces from the board, let's keep it that way. Is it worth then looking at the pieces they've left on the board? If if there is an attempt by the U.S. government to control the narrative, who are the people they've left in play? And is that the bigger story to investigate?
That is always a big one. I mean, we've heard people like Lou Elizondo talk about, the people who are controlling this. We've heard from people like David Grush stating that there are, forces out there that, are making decisions for this topic. We've heard that there have been these people, whether it's the Gang of Eight or the Collins Elite or whoever it may be, that have this private group that calls the shots. And it's not a lot of people. It's maybe 4 to 8 people that are making these decisions. The majority of us will never even know what they look like, let alone, know if it's truthful or not. I mean, we're getting into deep, dark secrets here that we've only heard rumors about, Josh.
Right. Yeah, I want it to be made clear for any government agency that's listening right now. I don't know anything. This is all speculation. But I would say that there is enough evidence in the public available conversations and the public available meetings that we do know about of some of these captains of industry that happen, they attend a meeting and the next day Congress introduces a bill that will, somehow benefit them. There's enough of that publicly happening that it stands to reason there's a lot that's happening behind closed doors that we are just not privy to.
Do you think then, because if there are these people who are calling the deep, dark shots on this all, do you think then that this goes against what people like Tim Burchett, Anna Paulina Luna, Eric Burleson, and others are trying to get done?
I think that they are I'm going to say this and I hope I don't offend anybody, but they are a dog on a leash and they don't know how long their leash is. But eventually they're going to chase that car to the point where it's going to catch and they're going to get snapped back. I think that it's an interest for them. They have an interest in the topic and they've found an opportunity to explore that interest within their positions in Congress. But again, I don't know that they'll ever reach a point where they are able to produce for us, the general people, the public folk, any information that sheds a significant new light on the topic. This is evident. This has been made evident by the fact that Grush said, I'll tell you all this stuff in a skiff, but they can't get Grush in a skiff. They get blocked at every turn to get Grush in a skiff. I mean, with Grush, they've reached the end of their leash. So, I mean, we have supporting evidence that this is the case, that they will only be allowed to go so far. They'll only be allowed to push so far until they get their hand slapped and get redirected somewhere else.
Recently, Tim Burchett and Eric Burleson have ended conversations by the eye-rolling comment of them saying, I am not suicidal. Do you think they are doing that for show? Or do you think they are doing that because they've had real legitimate threats pushed towards them?
I think they're doing it because they've had conversations with people who have told them to be careful. And it's a CYA. And, there's a possibility that they're doing it to, the illusion of threat on someone somehow increases their believability. Somehow, if it's perceived that the government would want to take actions to silence these individuals, then what they are saying must somehow be true. But it's also, it's making a claim without the ability to support that claim. So I could see it going either way. Them saying it to provide some sort of an increase in credibility for themselves. But then on the other side, like I said, we know from Grush and others that threats have been made. And so it's possible that threats have been made to those two individuals as well. And so them making that statement, at least says that if something happens, somebody might treat it as anything other than a suicide and actually investigate.
Now, this is a hypothetical question with only 3 minutes to go here before we go to break. Josh Rutledge, the UFO Wizard, is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. You take somebody like Tim Burchett, who has been extremely open recently, extremely open about wanting this to come out, wanting this to be a part of the new culture moving forward, that we are not alone in the universe. And I love the fact that he says UFOs and not UAP, because he hates the term. Thank you, Tim. But I mean, you get somebody like that who is basically publicly challenging the secret system. What would happen if something happened to him? What do you think that would do?
Well, I mean, I think it would spark a lot of people to question, what he was potentially onto, what led him to this, to this outcome. What I don't know is would somebody else step into his place, pick up the flag, and continue the charge? There are 400 and some odd people in Congress. I think it might just be the Senate, but I don't know my numbers. I'm sorry, I'm a horrible American. But there's a lot of people in Congress. There are 5 on that committee that have shown an interest in this topic. So I guess the bigger question is, what happens if let's just assume that they just leave Congress because they lose an election. If Tim Burchett or Burleson or Luna leave Congress because they lose an election, does this all just go away? Or would somebody else pick up the charge?
That is the big question. And like you said, I think you hit the nail on the head there. There are very few congressional people that are actually moving this ball forward. It's a very small amount, but they're passionate, and they got the right bulldogs in Burchett and Nancy Mace and Anna Paulina Luna that are not going to shut up. They know how to work the press. They know how to work social media. They know how to work it much better than some of these older dogs that have been in Congress for 25, 30 plus years. So does that make a difference? I don't know. But when you look at it, I often wonder, whether it's Marco Rubio, Senator Gillibrand, Senator Warner, or a lot of these people who've come out about this, Josh, I wonder why they've all of a sudden gone back into the tunnel. What happened to them where they've kind of backed off the subject a little bit turn this over to Congress and let these new pit bulls go at it? Did they get talked to? Did they get told to stand down? That's what we need to find out. Josh Rutledge is here for another 30 minutes on Spaced Out Radio.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
All right, buddy.
All right. What's in the third hour? I can't remember.
That's Lee.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You want to hang out, you can.
Yeah, I got nothing to do. I just need a solid 8 hours before tomorrow morning. I don't have to be anywhere until 8 o'clock or 10 o'clock in the morning, so I should be fine.
I got a busy day tomorrow. I got to work tomorrow, and then I get a couple hour break, and then I got to go to the museum to train my new ghost tour people. So, going to be busy. Good having you back on the show, Wizard.
Yeah, man, it's been a fun night.
We've hit some good topics, man. Hit some very good topics.
Yeah, I saw that there were some questions in the chat, so if we have time, we can get to those. That'd be great.
Yeah, we're going to do that here soon. Probably when we come back from break.
Okay.
Oh, 3 minutes, brother.
Okay. I watched Stephen Greer's new documentary.
I haven't seen it yet.
I wouldn't waste your time or your money.
Really?
It's like a big commercial, basically, for the stuff that he does and his app.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah, I mean, it does include like probably about 15 minutes worth of like interesting footage that they captured during one of his events, but it's interesting, but it's nothing to like write home about. So it's not worth the cost of the rental, in my opinion.
Right. I'm still waiting for June, man. For when Disclosure Day comes out.
Yeah, I mean, it ought to be an interesting. I'm working together with Shane and some others to put together a group to go see it.
Mm-hmm.
I would encourage, UFO people across the world, get together with your UFO buddies and grab that one person who's like doesn't believe it. They'll go to a movie, take it with you. Have a conversation afterwards. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? So.
Oh God, my eye is itchy.
My daughter is in dance, and she was at dance class last week or week before, and they were stretching, to get ready to do dance stuff. And she said she felt something pull on her ponytail 3 times, and there was no one around her.
That's weird. That's weird. We got about under a minute to go. Thank you to Blue Cruise, T-Bone ×2, Area 54, T-Bone. Thank you for donating 5 memberships to the chat room. Josie, thank you for joining the YouTube as well. And we are going to get to some audience questions coming up. Lee, do you want to come in early? No? Just shake your head, yes or no. All right. Lee's looking handsome tonight. This is for you, Lee. All right, there we go. Here we go, everybody. We are ready for the second half of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We got the wizard, Josh Rutledge, here. We're going to take in some audience questions as we get going here. Are you ready for some audience participation, Josh?
I am.
All right, let's start off with Shane here. If the government really knows anything about UFOs, what branch or which people would be in the know?
I think Department of Energy for sure is in the know. And military branches, probably the Air Force, because they were established shortly after Roswell. I would argue that, you look at the CIA and the Air Force were both established in the fall of 1947. Right after a time when something really weird happened, we needed to hide and we needed to, know what else was happening elsewhere in the world. So I think probably the CIA knows, somebody in the CIA knows, the Air Force for sure, and the Department of Energy. I'm pretty sure they know.
I would throw NASA in on that as well.
Public NASA or private NASA?
Private NASA.
Yeah, I would agree with private NASA as well.
Erica would like to ask, do you think AI is being pushed really hard to cover up that aliens are here? Meaning they can say that if seen by us, the government can just say it's AI and not real?
I think that AI is being pushed really hard because there's a lot of money to be made with AI. The spiritual side of me, though, says that AI causes us to really question how we define intelligent life. I think about AI in the way that I think about a child. They come into the world, they don't know anything. They have to learn everything they know from their parents or whoever their guardians are. And how are they taught? They're shown by example, or they're given other people's experiences as examples for how they should behave or how they should conduct themselves. So I think of AI as like a child, and eventually it will grow to the point where we as humans have to answer the hard question of how do we define consciousness. And so on a spiritual level, I think that's important. It will cause us to grow spiritually significantly when we have to eventually think about and define consciousness as something beyond being a human trait or condition. As far as why AI has been pushed for everybody else, again, I think it's just there's a lot of money to be made in the AI market, and from that avenue, push it to everybody. But I also think, like Dave and I talked about a little bit earlier, I think it supports a lot of the misinformation and disinformation that the governments of the world may want to put out into the public as a part of, counterintelligence on what things are actually happening within the space of UFOs and aliens, etc.
I think AI is going to cut down on the amount of real videos that are out there. I think it's going to bring a level of frustration towards people where it's going to be almost like a tune-out mechanism, that the minute somebody sees a UFO video, they're going to scroll on past. And they're just going to be like, this is BS. This isn't even real. They're not even going to give it a chance because AI and clickbait is going to ruin it for everybody.
Yeah, I think that image and video metadata are going to become the new, kind of, I don't know. I mean, this is, my kids would yell at me if they hear me using this word. They're going to become the new meta when it comes to footage. If you actually have, metadata to support your image or your video, and it's not just, was created by, Grok or whatever, that's going to be the new kind of key evidence that this is a legitimate video. Now, somebody could potentially ask AI to make metadata. I don't know. I don't want to give anybody any ideas, but I mean, I think that having the metadata behind the image or the video, that's going to become the new, truth of, is this really real or is it AI? But that takes people wanting to take the time to A, get that data, and B, review it. And those people who want to, who are versus just going to scroll right by, I think they're few and far between.
Good call on that. Let's go to the next question here. Let's go next to Joe here in California. Josh, will our astronauts get fried when they pass through the Van Allen radiation belt on the way to the moon?
Hopefully they're moving fast enough that it won't affect them. And we've got some shielding in place. I mean, supposedly that's what happened with the Apollo missions, is that they were moving so fast in the capsule that they were in that they weren't really affected by the radiation belt. But I don't know. It's also been used as a reason why, the people who say that we never went to the moon in the beginning, in the first place, it's been used as a reason. We didn't go to the moon because we would have had to fly through the radiation belt and they would have all died of radiation poisoning. But the argument is, like I said, that they were moving so fast through the belt, and they were going through kind of the edge of the belt where it's not as saturated with particles. That's why they weren't affected by it. So I don't know. I mean, time will tell. I think anybody, every single person who volunteers to be an astronaut is probably one of the, if not the bravest people on the planet. To volunteer to be launched into space on something that, you can test versions of it, but the version that you're going to be sitting in when you fly into space really can't be tested because, again, they can test versions, and the next version that doesn't fail, that's the one they launch without people, and then it comes back, and then they launch it the next time with people. I mean, it's just, astronauts are awesome. I could not do it. My nerves and anxiety would get the best of me for sure. But I hope that they are not fried. I hope that in the last 60 years, that we've come up with shielding technology to better shield them, and that they're moving fast enough that the particles don't affect them.
I really hope for their safety too, especially as they're going to do a flight around the moon, and this is going to be launching soon. We have a Canadian going on board there, so I gotta cheer it on, but I don't think the Van Allen belt is going to be that much of an issue. I think that it would be interesting to know if they see something on the other side of the moon, I doubt they'll be able to say anything, but I'm excited about it. There's just something really, really awesome about space travel. And it still makes me feel like a kid again, watching these rockets go up. I love it. I really do. Would I do it myself? Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Would you like the Blue Horizon? Would you do that?
I don't know if I would
like,
do the Blue Origin, but I would
Yeah,
definitely do SpaceX. But we also know too, guys, that SpaceX hasn't had a disaster yet. Sure, they've lost rockets, but they haven't had people on it. It's a much different game once people start flying with them.
Everybody in the chat or listening right now, knock on wood. Let's do it. I'll do it together. Knock on wood. Okay,
Absolutely.
There we go.
Let's
This
get
is
to our
Dave's
next
just-
question. I want to correct myself. Yes, I know that SpaceX has sent people to the International Space Station, but they haven't gone beyond that. And that's dangerous enough. And thank goodness they haven't lost anybody yet. But as we know, with space travel, accidents happen. Joe is asking again, when we get back to the moon, will we find the moon buggy up on cinder blocks and the tires missing?
Why would ET want to steal anything we have? Like, especially anything we have from the 1960s.
It would be interesting, though, dude, if it actually had moved.
Yeah.
Okay, because you can still see the tracks
Yeah.
up on the moon. Okay.
Well, 2 years ago, I think it was, India sent a rover of their own to the moon, and it took photos of the Apollo landing sites. That's actually used as one of the debunks of the people who say we never went to the moon, is that another country sent a rover there and they took pictures of the Apollo sites. So, but yeah, all that stuff is still there. The American flag is now completely white. It is color washed from the sun.
Yes. I think it would be interesting, though, if the rover had moved. And let's say there was no tracks leading to it.
Hmm.
That would be kind of awesome.
What if it just vibrated slowly over the last 60 years into a new position?
What if there was a bumper sticker put on it that says, ET doesn't believe in humans?
What if there's a bumper sticker that put on it that says, I break for ET?
Or one of those 70s bumper stickers that says, keep on trucking. Pat is asking, Disclosure Day looks good. What do you think would happen if full disclosure would actually happen, and what the fallout would look like?
Well, I don't know. I think that people, for the most part, are pretty resilient. I think most people would just be like, oh, yeah, that makes sense, and then just go about the rest of their day. I think the only way disclosure really has a big impact is if it comes with, something else. Like it comes with improvements to healthcare or, energy usage or availability or so on and so forth. So, I mean, if you classify or if you quantify disclosure as the U.S. government says that we've been visited by extraterrestrial life, back in 1947, we captured some of their craft and their bodies, and we've been trying to figure things out ever since, but we really can't figure it out. Most people would be like, oh yeah, okay, whatever, because at the end of the day, it doesn't do anything to change the everyday life of people of the world. But if they came out and said all the things I just said, plus we figured out how to pull energy from the vacuum of the bulk, and now we're going to have unlimited energy, and we don't need to have a dependency on oil or anything else, the market's going to crash. So I think it's what comes along with the admission that is the bigger question.
I think the fallout is scary. We've talked about that numerous times on this show. I think it's going to affect the economy. It's going to affect people with mental illness like depression, anxiety, stress, bipolar disorder. I think it's going to affect energy. It's going to affect religion, especially. And we could be, with any type of alien contact, we could be in for a world of trouble. We have to remember that, as accepting as people like you and I are about this type of programming, okay, we have a lot of people, more than half of this world's population, still believe that anything that comes from the sky is demonic, evil, or the start of Armageddon. And 4.5 billion people can do a lot of damage to the rest of that population, especially if they think it's end times because aliens have come down here to introduce themselves. That's scary.
Yeah, I guess for me, it's a matter of which we've talked about before, is, how do you define full disclosure? Because the example that I just gave is different from the example that you just gave.
100%.
So, it's still an issue. It's still an issue of how do we define disclosure. And the only way we can truly prepare for what full disclosure looks like is if we know what we expect full disclosure to be.
Agreed. I love this question by Jose here. Do you think that the military at one point had or still has a time machine, or just another misinformation campaign? Rumors have persisted long on this.
It's very possible. I mean, there's also that the chronovision that supposedly the Vatican has that allows you to look back in time. Time is a really interesting thing when you realize that we experience time in a linear way, but time doesn't exist in a linear way. All time is happening simultaneously. So if you change the way you think about time as not being the past or the present or the future, it's just all now, then maybe you could come up with a way to skip between different time boxed realities. And we would call that time travel. So it's possible. I would actually probably expect, especially Einstein's interest in time and any journals that he may have left behind when he died, I would expect that humanity would be more apt to figure out time travel before they could figure out a Tic Tac.
If we've already had it, then it would be amazing. And a lot of people believe that there has been a lot of talk about this over the years, about these jump rooms that they have. Grant Cameron is a firm believer that these jump rooms do exist and that they are being used as we speak, whether it's to teleport yourself from one side of the continent to another, or whether it's to go up to Mars or the moon. This is where you get deep into the secret space program as well. I mean, I want this to happen. I want to believe this, but I'm not sure my want is as equal as believing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I also like, I don't know, this is going to not be, so there's a concept of time travel that is you're physically leaving, like your whole body is leaving one time and moving to a different time. There's also the concept of time travel where you're projecting your consciousness
Yes.
into the body of another person living in another time, right? So it's a very famous TV show with Scott Bakula. I'm totally blanking on Quantum Leap. Quantum Leap, right? I mean, that was the whole premise, right? Is that he was shifting his consciousness in all these different people. That was the form of time travel. There was another show that hinted at that. It came out a few years ago. It only ran for one season. I can't remember the name of it. It was pretty good. I wish they would have extended it, but they were projecting themselves backwards in time into other bodies to carry out some mission, to save the world of the future. So if it's maybe a time machine in that capacity, where it just is a consciousness shift from where you are now to, somebody in the past, and you just take over their body and interact in that time, then yeah, maybe that's even more conceivable, because if you think about, the possibility of the oversoul and, multi-lives and all of that different thing, maybe you could even project into another body in which your consciousness is already inhabiting, and then you're just living in that timeline.
Let's get to another question here because we are running out of time here. Let's go to Pat again. What if they got to the moon and the aliens that are there give us a ticket for littering and leaving all of the stuff up here?
We would probably get a big ticket then for all the junk that we have in space around our planet. It's something like 255,000 pieces of just random junk that are just tumbling around the planet, screws and nuts and bolts and rocket bodies and everything else that eventually fall back to Earth and burn up. We're in for so many tickets, we're going to have a boot on our planet.
I would agree. They got to develop some kind of net system to start, fly. Much like they do when they're capturing fish, when they're fishing in the ocean, where they get two boats with giant nets and they just, go together. We need to do that in space with rockets to clean up some of this mess.
Yep. Let's get right on that, Dave. We'll work it out. We'll send it to Elon.
You know what is weird about it though, is if you watch the spacewalk, okay, the spacewalks that the astronauts do, they say that if you were to float in space, you would not live long, like even if you had enough oxygen, because there's so much space debris up there that it would be like, let's say when a satellite explodes, when it comes back in and it burns up into the atmosphere, it sends all of those particles, those metal particles and nuts and bolts and everything. They're moving at what, 16, 17,000 miles an hour. Okay. So if you got hit by one, if an astronaut got hit by one, it would be like taking a bullet.
Yep.
Okay. Yet on the International Space Station, if there's that much debris up there, that thing should have been shattered a long time ago, and astronauts should have been hit.
And unless it's not in their orbital zone. If it's all in a lower orbit.
I thought of that, but in recent years, like the last 40 years, that's all the orbit we've been going in. We haven't been going into upper echelons of that.
So have you ever, I'm going to detour for just a minute. Have you ever gone to the Leo Lab low Earth orbit visualization site? It's platform.leolabs.space/visualization. And it's all the junk that is floating around the planet. Not just junk. It's like all of our satellites and everything. All the debris, all the stuff that's like right now moving around our planet. So you can go and see where all the different pieces are that they know about.
Gotta cut you off there, Josh. We're gonna skip out of here for hour 2. We're gonna continue with some audience questions on the Q&A, but we're gonna be joined as well by Lee Strauss, Mr. Extra Small, in hour 3.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
All right, Wizard, I'm going to put you in the background. We'll be right back, okay?
All right.
All right. Wizard's going to stick around with us, which is really cool. Be right back. All right. Let's bring in Josh once again. And extra small Lee Strauss. There he is, everybody. Look at that. He even got his hair trimmed for this one.
That's because I combed it over.
Oh, very nice. All right. I just saw something on X. We're going to get into this. Courtney Marcassani, I'll say this on the show. I'll wait until we're back on the show. We're going to get back into the scientists here for a second. We will take more audience questions as well, so make sure you put them in capital letters. All right, let me just scroll down. How you been, Lee?
Oh, man. Working my tail off, brother.
Yeah. Nice. T-Bone with a hat trick tonight. Thank you, T-Bone. Much love to you. Thank you to Area 54. Thank you to Blue Cruise and T-Bone for gifting 5 memberships. Josie becoming a member tonight. It's been a busy night for all of you guys. Thank you very much. Little Cam, yeah, been a member for 6 months now. All right. Tom King, how's your beautiful hair doing? Give us an update in the chat room if you don't mind. We've got to get you and your buddies rebooked here. Here we go, 5 seconds. We are into the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Swamp Dweller, along with Lee Strauss and Josh Rutledge, the Wizard, coming back in momentarily. But first, I want to say hello to all of you listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Narquois. Narquois is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's head to the swamp.
Hello and welcome to Spaced Out Radio's Swamp. I'm Swamp Dweller, and tonight I'm going to take you on a mystic journey of the unknown, sharing tales of monsters, legends, and nightmares. Welcome to the Spaced Out Radio Swamp.
I'm a Native American from a reservation in Michigan. In my younger years, me and my close friend, I will call her M, decided to go back to our roots and get some snares. And in the northern Michigan winter, there is snow and cold. This was so long ago, however, I remember we wanted to utilize not only the meat for dinner, but the hide for regalia. We decided to go south into a swampy area that had cedar and pines. We were looking for pathways the rabbits used to set the snares when we noticed a clearing that seemed to have no snow. We both agreed to proceed towards what we saw. We both were getting creepy vibes as we approached the site, and when I entered the circle, I saw jars with things in all around them. The freakiest thing was in the middle of this was a tree, which upon the vines grew toward the ground. Then, there in the fork of this tree was a doll, arms raised. The trees seemed to make a natural cove around this place, and I just wanted to get out of there. I had extreme butterflies and wanted to bolt. I and M didn't touch anything and proceeded home as fast as we could through the snow without shoes. After we reached my grandparents, we told my grandmother what had happened, and she called our cousin who was in the tribal police force. We told everything to him after he showed up, and he said he would take care of it. I tried to forget about it, and after he retired from the force, I decided to ask what had happened, and if he indeed saw what I and M saw. All he mentioned was he did indeed see what we had described, also that they emptied the jars and dismantled the site. I wanted to know what was in the jars, and I pushed all I could, but he would not say. I don't remember or leave it be is all he would tell me. Call me A. M is a nurse in Virginia now, and my cousin, may he rest in peace now. Here where I live, I have experienced some weird things, but to me, this was the one that set a bit of fear into me when I was young. I wonder what that doll was for, and what all those jars were.
Creepy dolls, once again. That's just scary. Hey, thank you to Swamp Dweller for another spooky story. If you want more just like that, head on over to YouTube, type in Swamp Dweller, hit subscribe, ring that bell. Thousands of stories for you to listen to each and every night. It is that time of the week where we say hello to our good friend Lee Strauss.
They call him extra small, but he's big where it counts. Chasing Bigfoot through the woods on wild accounts. Talking ghosts in the dark, UFOs in the sky. Aliens laughing while they're cruising by. Yeah, Lee Strauss is out there. Hear that cosmic call? He's the legend of Element 115. Here on Spaced Out Radio's Q&A.
All right, Major Lee, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, and I'm just happy to be here with you all tonight. It's been an exciting couple of weeks. Wanted to come on with you last weekend, and you were gone.
I know. Blame Lori and Fenton and the UFO Con, which was a great time. Lorian tipped me off to something that if she does her conference next year, there might be an extra small presenting there.
Yes, we've been in talks. We have been in talks, and I'm going to hook up with her actually in this May, and do a little bit of work with her and MUFON.
Beautiful. That's awesome, my friend.
Yeah.
Earlier in the show, we were talking about the scientists, and Wizard, thank you for sticking around for hour 3. I know you have a lot of fun doing this show.
Yep.
I went on and I was scrolling through X, and I found something from our good friend Courtney Marcassani, who has actually put together a spreadsheet of the scientists who have passed away.
Ooh.
Now, yeah, or disappeared. So we're going to read through this a little bit. Okay. And we're going to start off with Monica Reza. Okay. She was General McCaslin's assistant for a long time, and she disappeared in Southern California. An active investigation went missing in LA and in the mountains, in the San Gabriel Mountains, and just kind of vanished there. Okay. So we have that one. Carl Grillmar disappeared in Calgary, Alberta. I believe he's deceased now. Who's typing away there? Who's typing? I hear somebody typing. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. There was Nuno Lauriera, and he was disappeared in, or I apologize, Grillmare disappeared in California. Brookline, Massachusetts for Nuno. Jason Thomas, missing person still as of December 13th, 2025. Date reported found deceased on March 17th of this year. James McDonald, Tucson, Arizona, disappeared. Andrea Puharch and Henry Carroll Puharich disappeared in North Carolina. I mean, this list goes on and on. Like, it is very, very large. They're all tied to the UFO world. It is absolutely incredible. I believe she has figured out at least 61 people who have disappeared, scientists.
Wow.
Okay, or died under mysterious circumstances. as well as filmmakers and writers. Looking down that list, I mean, Stanley Kubrick, Weird Death. Okay. Ron Rommel, Carla Turner, Dr. Carla Turner, George Adamski, just to name a few. We've all heard those names. Dorothy Kilgallen. I mean, it is absolutely crazy how many of these people have vanished, disappeared, died. And sure, some of them are probably from natural causes, but it is just absolutely freaky when you think about it, how they all seem to tie around the UFO world. Lee, your thoughts?
Yeah, I thought we were done with this, disappearing people around the UFO subject. I really did. I figured, this stuff is coming out now. They're finally going to do it, and yet we still have people getting disappeared. So, what the heck is that about? It seems like there's been a rash lately, right? So, I think that's on purpose, for their reasons. They don't want people to come forward still. So there's that contingent out there that is still taking people's lives and disappearing people. And I wonder who that group of people is that's doing this. Is it CIA? Is it someone in the FBI? I mean, and are they tied back to the Pentagon somehow? Are they tied to some of these companies that are, still diving into the technology and want to make it their own and want to be able to capitalize on that technology? I don't know how deep this goes or how widespread it is, but it's definitely, makes me fearful as a person that goes out and looks for UFO evidence, in the skies. If I capture something really, really good and, put it out there, am I going to get disappeared?
I don't know. I think you're too good looking for that. Maybe some of us highly unattractive cusses like myself might go. Guy who's good looking with you, has a good jawbone, a nice jawline. No, you're not going. You're not going.
No, I'll tell you what, I'll put up a good fight. I'll put up a
interesting topic in the chat room going on. Tom King, former guest on this show, citizen scientist, real brain, has decided one day a few years ago to build his own R2D2 type robots. Okay. Well, he did something today that is very, very interesting. And I want you guys to see this because I want your opinion. Josh, I want you to go first here. So Tom put in our chat room, Dave, today I tried to summon a UFO. I asked for something red. Well, it worked. I summoned the sports model. Shot in 4K at 45 times optical zoom. It let me record it at max zoom, and later it got the hell out of here. Summoning. So, Tom says, at this point, I'm sold. Something read my mind and showed up 90 minutes later, and I recorded a pretty wild video. I want to see that video, Tom. I want to see that video, what you caught. If you don't mind. Josh, you're big into summoning. You try it all the time. You know, this is not new to you. I've summoned before. It's not new to me. Lee, I believe you've summoned in craft before. Let's talk about this because a lot of people don't believe this is possible, yet there seems to be something to it, Josh.
Yeah, I mean, I totally believe that if you think about Bob Lazar's encounter with the sports model, right? He talked about on the inside of the craft that there were no control panels. There looked to be seats for entities, but there were no controls for them to use to navigate the craft. So one of the things that implies is that they fly the craft potentially with consciousness, use of consciousness. Then you fast forward, to 2 years ago when the psionics folks hit the scene, and they're talking about using, effectively meditation, deep meditation, to connect with craft and navigate them to a location so that they could be retrieved and recovered. So it's in all possibilities then that the way that UFOs are primarily interacted with is via consciousness. So yes, I think putting yourself into a state of conscious openness to the possibilities is all that is needed to then ask for something and wait to receive it. I think there's a couple of important things with what Tom King said here. Number one, he was specific in his ask. He said, I want to see a red one. He didn't just say, show up, show me a sign, whatever. He was specific in his ask, number one. Number two, he waited. It took 90 minutes for it to show up, but he waited. So many of us these days are impatient. If it doesn't show up in the first 30 seconds, we're going to assume it didn't work and we're going to move on and do something else. He waited. True. So, yes, I think that summoning does work. I think you have to be open to the possibility. You have to be specific in your ask, and then you have to wait patiently and just be alert and aware and looking for what you asked for. And it may be 90 minutes, and it may be the next day.
I would agree with you on that. It is a level of patience that you need in order to try and communicate. And you got to control the frustration. Lee, you've sat out in the forest on the mountains of Mount Baker, Mount Adams, and every mountain in between looking for UFOs. You found a couple of hot spots in there. And what do you do in order to take a look at these craft? What do you do that you feel that you're summoning them in?
Well, it's funny. It's because I'll set up my equipment, facing one direction. I'll get to a location and it's like, okay, I'm going to put my cameras up facing this way. And that's because that's where I feel the craft are going to be coming from. Right. And of course, it's not every time, it's not every night that they'll show up, but it's a preponderance. The majority of the time they'll be there. And so it seems like they show up for the cameras for me. And it's not like I have to go into a deep meditation. I just see myself in a location from above, right? In my mind, I see myself in this location from above. And then, I just say, hey guys, you want to come around? Just like we're talking to Bigfoot in the forest. Hey, do you want to, hey guys, and they'll show up or they won't. And during the time that they're there, I can ask them things like, okay, do you guys want to go ahead and give me a big flash, or do you want to change colors for me, or you want to do certain things? Or in one instance, where are you from? And they went to a spot in the sky, and behind that is, I think it was Vega, the Star Vega. So they flew over to Star Vega, right over it, and stopped there. So there's certain things that you can ask for and get answers, right? So there is that communication going on back and forth.
When I summoned UFOs back a few years ago, for me, I didn't even know what I was doing. I just had this internal feeling that something was going to show up. And I would literally say to my friends, hey, come on over, stand on my patio. I had one of those electric propane type fireplaces, right? I said, let's have a little fire on my patio, have a beer, and watch the UFOs fly by. And my friends would always laugh at me and say, really? Come on, UFOs flying by? Yeah, come on over. And sure enough, we'd have things flying over my house that were unexplainable. And the beautiful part about where I lived at the time was I knew the flight plan for Vancouver International Airport. I knew what time they were flying, like we had record of it, where they took off to. For instance, if they were heading east, they would always fly to the south of where I lived. If they were going into Vancouver, they always went behind along the mountaintops before coming into Vancouver to land, depending on the jet stream at that time. So there was never anything flying north to south. It was always east to west and west to east. And when all of a sudden we started seeing things coming over that didn't make sense, whether it was because they were large orbs, whether it was because they were silent planes, whether it was black triangles, we always saw something. And it is absolutely amazing that when you do develop that level of contact through consciousness, through a clear heart, clear soul, clear mind, anything can happen. You're pointing at me, Lee, shaking your head.
Well, yeah, I mean, that clear consciousness, the pure heart, that is things that they pick up on, believe it or not. It's amazing. I feel that same way for sure.
And I'll also add that different people need different levels of ceremony for making contact. It could be that you get together with a group of people and you do a deep guided meditation and you light a candle and you have incense. And that is your level of ceremony, your ritual, if you will, for conscious contact. It could also be that you just step into your backyard and say, "Can I see you?" Mm-hmm. And that's all the ritual that you need in order to make conscious contact. The point is that what works for one may not work for the other. And if it doesn't, if you try to replicate what somebody else experienced through their ritual or ceremony, it may just be that, like a tumbler and a lock, that key works for them, but you need to figure out and find your own key, figure out what makes your tumbler unlock so that you get to have whatever that conscious experience is. But it starts with tuning your antenna to just it being possible. There's a switch that flips in your head when you just accept that it is possible to make conscious contact. And when you flip that switch, that's when the phenomena will see you and make itself known.
And I think too, on that same note, when you're interacting with them, it may not just be the ETs, it may also be the craft, because I do believe that the craft are sentient in a way as well.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I agree.
Even the orbs, a lot of people see the orbs, and I believe they can pick up on what we're thinking and our thought patterns and that sort of stuff, and they'll react to our thought.
I think we also have to look too that, Josh, and getting to the connection that you were saying, I think once that connection is established, you could go outside at any time. You just kind of get a feeling. Like everybody says, well, what does it feel like? Well, it's just a feeling, just like you're like, hey, I'm craving ice cream. Something along those lines. You just get this feeling, hey, I got to go outside. And there it will be. And it could be daytime, could be nighttime, could be in the dusk or early in the morning. You never know.
It's the same thing as like you're working one day and you think, I haven't talked to my mom in a while. And the next thing you know, you get a text from your mom or, your uncle or your friend or whatever the case may be. It's the same kind of thing. It just jumps into your head. I wonder if I can make contact tonight. Just that thought, that's all that's needed for it to happen. And then you just step outside and make yourself available.
All right. We're into the final half hour. Coming up after the break, Lee Strauss, Josh Rutledge, the Wizard. We're hanging on out for the Q&A.
Spaced Out Radio. Your host, Dave Scott.
All right, we're clear.
Do you think that, I'm putting this out there like a question, but for me, I know the answer for myself, but I wonder if that communication goes both ways for most people. If it's communication from them as well from us to them.
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, I think that's where the thought of I haven't heard from whatever comes from, is that more than likely, whoever you're thinking about is also thinking about you. So the thought that pops in your head of, I might try a conscious contact tonight. That thought pops into your head likely because something else is already asking you to come out and do it. They're basically knocking at your door saying, "Can you come out and play?" And I think I think they want to be seen. I think they're tired of having to stay in the shadows. And they're tired of waiting for the leaders of the world to do the right thing. And so starting maybe 20 years ago, they just said, F it. And they just started making contact with whatever or whoever would make contact.
I do believe too, I've caught it a couple of times where all of a sudden one will show up in the middle of my screen after it's come up from behind a mountain or whatever. And then it realizes that it's being filmed, and it's like, and then it boogies and it's like, I'm out of here, basically. Like, it knows that it's being filmed.
Oh yeah.
So I'm wondering too, if there's certain groups of ETs out there that don't want to be seen, and some that are like looking for it. You know what I mean? If there's a couple different groups.
Yeah. I mean, it's possible that there is like some sort of a ET humanitarian group where, they are responsible for making contact. And if you're not as a part of that humanitarian group, then if you get sighted, it's okay, but just don't stick around,
Right.
Maybe there's, something I was talking to Dave about a couple weeks ago. Like, think about the last time that you heard about a very close encounter with a craft. Like, it's been tens of years. And I think it's because they realize that close encounters with us is detrimental to us. And so now they keep their distance.
Well, one thing along that line, I guess, is they don't want us to have, they don't want us to war against each other. And especially they don't want us to use nukes, it seems.
Right. But I mean, we fear what we don't understand, and we attack what we fear.
That is true.
Generally speaking, we do.
I mean, collectively, there might be individuals who don't fall into that bucket, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know that I would ever shoot at a craft, but
No way.
Generally speaking, it's hard to know if it's safe to approach. And if you live in a neighborhood, like I live in a neighborhood of, hundreds of houses, it's even though I might be safe to approach, who knows what my neighbor's going to do, So, unless you live in a remote place, or if you're already in a remote place and you're doing a conscious contact, it's not safe for them to get any closer. But it's also not safe for us. Their technology emits, waves and things that are harmful to the human body. Hence the, Travis Walton case, et cetera. So I think that they've come to realize that that's the case. And so that's why they really only get as close as to not potentially cause physical harm.
Yeah. Or even in some cases, mental, harm as well. I mean, because us in this thing, we get it sometimes. I mean, and it definitely disrupts your life. That's for sure.
Yep. Like I was thinking about it a couple of weeks ago. The screen memories that people talk about they have for abductions. I wondered if ET don't necessarily set those screen memories, but our own brains do. Because we know that just in general life, the brain will do things to protect itself from trauma, to protect us from trauma.
True.
So maybe our own brains set those screen memories. ET doesn't do it. Our brains do it to protect us.
Hold
from
right
the
there,
trauma.
Josh. We're coming back in 3 seconds.
Okay.
Here we go. All right, we're into the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio. The Wizard, Josh Rutledge, going the distance. We have extra small Lee Strauss here for the Q&A as well. And gentlemen, we are going to get into some audience questions here coming on up. We're going to start off with Joe here, who is asking, Josh, will our astronauts get... Or we already asked that one. Oh, why didn't I erase that one? I apologize, Josh. Start with Pat here. Why do you think AI says the craziest things, or do you think AI is being controlled by higher ups like everything else?
Well, I mean, like I said, I think AI is a child. You ever watch that show of the kids say the darndest things? I mean, look at all the things that human children say, So I think AI is a child. We haven't given it enough examples of what is appropriate to say versus not. So you ask it a question and it comes up with some off the wall wonky stuff. And it's just because it's still very much in its infancy or maybe toddler, but it hasn't made it to the point of being able to think and rationalize like adults do.
What's your thoughts, Lee?
Yeah, if you have an offline AI, I definitely do believe that it can be manipulated by ET to say, answer questions, or just like we're talking, we're influenced by ET to go outside at that particular time, or this sort of thing, and how the phenomena seems to, do things like drain your battery or turn off your monitor or mess with your phone and start scrolling through your phone, which I've had happen before at Mount Adams. It can manipulate an offline AI to say whatever it wants to say.
It's kind of weird how that works. Really is. All
To
right.
be continued on that one, by the way.
Let's go to Super Crazy here. What do you think about the findings of the study of pre-satellite photographic plates done by Dr. Beatrice Villarreal, which were recently corroborated by another study? What's your thoughts on that, Josh?
Yeah, I'm familiar with this a little bit. I think it's basically what was like the earlier in the space program. They had some satellites that had some plates that took some photographs, and only these like pockets or not pockets, but these little pinpricks of light showed up in just like one frame of these photographs from satellites. I think at the time it was kind of dismissed as just noise in the camera, but I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of things I think that we have probably captured in space that just go ignored or are dismissed as just being, artifacts in the camera or whatever the case may be. I always think about the time when the first astronaut guy was, orbiting his first couple of routes around the Earth. And he talked about seeing fireflies outside of the window of his capsule. Well, I mean, he's up in space. There aren't fireflies in space. So what was he seeing? They dismissed it as he was beginning reentry and he was seeing something burn up. But that wasn't where he was in his travels. So what did he see? I myself have watched people share footage that they've taken when on like the Blue Origin trips. And if you look closely in some of that footage, there's anomalous things that are showing up there, UFOs and such. So I think we probably capture a lot of things in space that either A, never see the light of day, or B, just get dismissed as, reentry, fire or whatever.
Here's one of the things that I would say about this study. Beatrice is very calculated in what she does. She is very astute and has a very great reputation of bringing the scientific facts to this. But the one thing that none of us will know, even Beatrice, is we have no idea how many satellites are actually up there, but how many satellites are actually pointed out there. We can think of all the satellites that they're here to help us on Earth with telecommunications, with weather, with, in pointing directions, following storms or missile defense or whatever it may be. Okay. Television, radio, you name it. But we have no idea how many satellites are pointing outward from this planet to see what's truly out there outside of the James Webb Telescope or Hubble. Your thoughts, Lee?
Yeah, we don't know. And there may be satellites that are constantly watching the moon, right? We do have satellites that constantly watch our sun, of course. So beyond that, I don't know what else is out there, but I imagine there's a lot of data being collected about what's moving around our solar system for sure.
We actually have some deep space satellites that only look at certain wavelengths of light. So like they only see an ultraviolet or they only see an infrared. That's how we found some of these dark planets that are floating around that aren't attached to a star. So it really makes you wonder again, like what else are these things capturing that are just being dismissed?
Well, there's got to be a bunch of satellites that are just pointed out looking for near Earth objects or objects that could possibly come in, to the Earth's path around the sun. So yeah, I'm sure that happens all the time.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to another question here. Let's go to Derek. What will the implications be if Major General Neil McCasland, who is missing, is found to have been unalive to cover up the UFO disclosure?
Significant. I mean, my mind is first thinking, how would we know that that's the case? But let's assume we somehow know. He's got a note pinned to his pocket that says, we, the government, did this so that he wouldn't tell you all the secrets. If we know for, confidently that that's the case, I think it changes the playing field entirely. I think it gives all of the work that the UAP task force is doing and everything more teeth to be able to say, hey, you got to protect our guys. I think it probably gets the thing we've been waiting to get past around, protections for whistleblowers, stronger protections for whistleblowers. I think that gets passed because here would be a real life example of why this is needed. It completely changes I think the way people look at the UFO topic through the eyes of what the government is willing to protect.
Lee, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I think I do. If scientists are being taken out, if generals are being taken out, people that are thinking about coming forward or are in the field of ufology or interested in it, what this is going to do, it's going to make everybody else that wants to come forward, just say, screw it. I've got a family. I've got, my pension. I've got this and that. And I don't want to come forward if I have the possibility of losing any of those things. I mean, you saw after Trump said something, there was a rash of people that were like, oh, I want to talk about my experience, or I want to talk about what's been going on. And all of a sudden now you get this, what, there's been four, all of a sudden, 4 people disappeared basically. So, I mean, it's going to make everybody shut up, unfortunately. So it's not good.
My feeling on it all is that if he was found deceased, we'll never know if it is about UFO disclosure. It could very well be, but we will never know.
Yeah. Like that's what I said. Like it's a big like, how would we know? So if somehow we would know, then all the things that, you know, I said and what Lee said, absolutely. But
well, how could it not be? How could it not be? You know what I mean? How could this you know, his disappearance not be related to ufology and what, you know, what he knew and what he possibly could have brought forward?
I mean,
how could
there?
I mean,
there are 600,000 people who go missing every year in the U.S. alone. There are 8,600 people that die in the U.S. every single day. I mean, just because it's a coincidence doesn't mean it's the cause.
That is very true.
Correlation does not equal causation.
Yeah, my spidey senses are telling me, you know, since there was 4 of them most recently, you know, within the last 2 months, that's telling me the preponderance of the evidence is saying, yeah, it's because, you know, people were going to come forward.
Well, Tim Burchett, like I said earlier in the show, he brought up the 5 that have disappeared recently. And, you know, he was basically saying, like, we have something going on here. We need to investigate this. Why are these people who have given testimony all of a sudden disappearing or being found deceased? That's the big one. Let's move on to a different question here as we continue on. Let's go to Joe here. Are all these people disappearing because of their UFO connection, or is it just a lot of people disappearing? We don't know. The coincidence is it all happens to be that they've testified for UFOs, the scientists, that is. So we just kind of touched up on that. Let's go over to, let's see, Pat here. What is so big for them to want to kill for? I want to know more than who is doing it. Those are answers we'll never get to know, Josh.
Yeah, I mean, part of me wonders if the reason it's so worth killing to protect is that it's simple. Like, it's something that if the general public knew, they could construct a device out of parts to access, you know, energy in the vacuum. Like, if it's so simple that the average Joe who took a shop class in high school could figure it out, it would literally give power to the people. And you know, we talked a little bit earlier about the shadow government. Imagine if all of a sudden power to the people, you know, it's not about a disruption in markets. It's about a disruption in the rich people in their way of living.
Is it about the rich, though, or is that just part of the excuse?
I mean, I'm not saying it should be about the rich. I'm just saying that if it's something that's just so simple for us to be able to recreate or create in general to take advantage of technology, or, you know, there's a secret password. All we have to do is say it. It's whatever the Farquad, whatever it is tonight, you know, that's the secret password that we say. And we get to make contact with ET anytime we say it. And they're going to help us solve our energy crisis. Like, What if it's just that simple, and that's the secret worth keeping?
What if it's a disruption in religion and what people believe? What if ET, made us, right? And everything that people believe about God isn't necessarily true, right? What if it's a disruption in how we think about our reality, and being such a massive disruption in our thought and in our beliefs?
Yeah, but you've got the Catholic Church has already prepared a statement for when that happens. When it comes out that ET is real, they've already got a statement prepared for how they're going to address it. Now, granted, the Catholic Church is not every religion on earth. I get that. But they are one of the biggest religious bodies on earth. And if they've already got a statement prepared, I would imagine other religions have as well.
All right, let's move on to another question. We have 5.5 minutes. Lee Strauss and the wizard Josh Rutledge are here. Let's go to Super Crazy. Do you think the government has both dead and living aliens and Bigfoots in captivity?
I do.
I definitely think they have aliens, certain types of ETs in captivity, alive and dead, but Bigfoot, I'm not sure. It almost seems like Bigfoot's able to move through reality differently, and they might be able to escape somehow.
So the reason I say that.
Speaking of Bigfoot, I have a story for you guys.
Okay.
I had a First Nations gentleman in my office today, and he claimed north of me on his reserved land a number of years ago that he was out in the forest hunting, and he was being stalked by a Sasquatch, a very aggressive Sasquatch, to the point where the Sasquatch got close to his vehicle, okay, with this person inside, and the Sasquatch literally grabbed a hold of the door and ripped the door off his vehicle. And after the struggle with the door, he grabbed his rifle and he shot it. And he allegedly killed it.
No.
And this is going back 20 plus years. And he talked to somebody whom his name he can't remember anymore about the body. And the guy took the body. Apparently, the Sasquatch ran after being shot, ran for about 3/4 of a mile before falling deceased. But he said what was different about this one is it didn't have feet. It had cloven hoofs. But everything else was very Sasquatch-like. He's going to, Lee, he wants to take us to the spot. So I got to get in close with Otto. I got Otto's phone number now.
That reminds me of I heard the Navajo Rangers speak one time. You guys familiar with who they are? The Navajo Rangers at all?
Yes.
Okay. So I heard them speak one time, and they were giving a presentation. They showed some photos in the snow, and the person said they saw a Bigfoot, and the Bigfoot ran away from their camper in the snow, but the prints that were made were like circular, and it was a single indentation in the snow, a circular indentation in the snow, and it was concave, like the part of their foot was ball like, and it pressed down into the snow. And so the reason that's interesting is when I first moved here, I kept feeling like something was looking at me through a window on the side of my house. I went out the next day, and there was a single ball like indentation in the gravel outside of that window. And then weeks later, I heard this presentation from the Navajo Rangers where they talked about this. It's like, oh, there you go, synchronicity. So maybe there are Bigfoot that have different physical features.
I don't know. Never know. Let's see if we can get one more question in here, because we only got about a minute and a half here or to go. And let's go to Super. Do you think there will be a major disclosure or open contact event in 2027?
Maybe. Anything's possible.
I would like to think that that's going to happen, sure, but you know, in what form is that going to take? No one has a clue. We'll just keep going out there and looking at the sky, and and hopefully we'll get some more evidence ourselves.
You know, I've been told through my channeling activities that it is a grassroots movement. You know, we shouldn't wait for some big public announcement. We should all be getting out into the field and looking at the night sky and asking for contact. And when enough people have made individual contact or with a group contact, it will sway the minds and opinions of those individuals to the point where it won't matter what the governments of the world have to say.
100th monkey, right?
Yeah,
I think too, we have to also be careful, just like anybody who makes date predictions, they never seem to come to fruition. Okay. They rarely seem to come to fruition, so I don't put much stock in it. Now, it's not saying that it's not happening on a different timeline, but it sure as hell ain't happening on ours. That's all I could really say about it. And I know you guys probably feel the same. Lee Strauss, our Element 115 expert, always looking good, my friend, and I appreciate you coming on in. Josh Rutledge, the UFO Wizard. We'll even give you one of these, you know, just for the sake of, being one of the guys tonight. Appreciate you guys. What a great show tonight with Josh, the Wizard, and Lee. Once again, as we say hello to Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal, rocking in the background with Little Brother is watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight, YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on X.
I know you're out there somewhere.
Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and Bigfoot Broadcasting Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
We're watching.
we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night, everybody. Good job, guys. Good job, gents. Way to go.
Thanks for letting me hang around for the third hour.
Oh, dude, anytime you want to, just come on in.
It was a good conversation, Lee.
Yeah, we did good. It was awesome.
Yeah.
And just one thought there, though. I'm sure we're not going to, it's not about finding out that God isn't real. Maybe it's just the perception of what God is might change, right?
Mm-hmm.
Once we start interacting with ETs.
I think the biggest hang up for a lot of people when it comes to aliens and God is that there's the whole idea of God made humans in his own image.
Mm-hmm.
And so if there are things out there that don't look like humans, what does that mean for God? But the way that I like to think about it, and I'm not even really a religious person, but I like to think about it as God may have made the soul in his own image, the spirit, right? The physical body that the soul inhabits, it could be as diverse as the life on the planet, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a perspective shift is what it might, institute. But, and I think if it does, and people are willing to have that perspective shift of it's the soul that is created in God's image,
mm-hmm.
Then anything with a soul is godly.
Right. Yep. That's it. Anyway, guys, I got to get up at 2:30 in the morning for work. So,
are you kidding me? You're working tomorrow?
Yeah, working tomorrow and Sunday. I'm 12 days on.
Holy shit, dude! Go get
10-hour days.
Tell me,
10-hour days.
My goodness, buddy, take it easy.
Yep. I will talk to y'all later.
All right, buddy. Much love, bud. Take care.
All right. You too. Bye.
All right.
Hey, Dave.
Yeah.
Can you hear this? Be quiet for a minute. Can you hear that at all?
Sounded like crickets.
Okay. I have ADHD, so I fidget. I have a fidget, and I always fidget every time I'm on the show when I'm talking. Somebody in the chat keeps saying they keep hearing clicking noises on the show, and I'm wondering if they hear my fidget because I'm moving it around.
Hold on 1 second here because I'm just ready here. Let's see that thing again.
Oh, it's just like a thing that moves and folds in on itself.
Oh God, I love those.
And so I just I sit here and messing with it while I'm talking. It gives my hands something to do while I'm sitting here.
Yeah, man.
But I was wondering if it's a really quiet one because it's like a dense plastic. But I'm like, I keep seeing people talking about hearing clicking noises. I was like, maybe they can hear my my fidget that I've been messing with all night.
Maybe. I don't know, man.
I mean, it's pretty quiet on my side, so my mic must be really good at picking stuff up. All right, man. I know you got a long day tomorrow, so I won't keep you.
I do.
Thanks again for the invite.
No problem. And to our regular audience, we will be back on Monday night when Lon Strickler from phantomsandmonsters.com will be here for a wonderful, wonderful show. So make sure you check that out. Do me a favor. Make sure you give us a thumbs up if you haven't already. We try and hit at least 100 a night. So if you could, we'd appreciate it. Helps with our algorithms. Makes us feel good. You know what I'm saying? Help us feel good. Help us feel good.
All warm and fuzzy.
Right? And we'll see you all on Monday night. Thank you to T-Bone tonight with a hat trick, as well as giving away 5 memberships. Josie for joining the YouTube membership, along with Blue Cruise and Area 54. Am I missing anybody? Let's see, T-Bone. Oh, yeah, Area 54 right there. T-Bone again. Ozzy Bonus Tiger. T-Bone again. Lil Kim, member 6 months. Guys, we'll see you all on Monday. Take care.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.